Welcome to Dirksón Photography. My name is Dirksón, and we spent the holidays over Christmas and New Year's Eve in Spain, in the south of Spain, where Anna comes from. And what I always love to do is I bring a camera or two, and I had the Canon 60 Mark II with me and the Sigma 35mm art lens, and I only shot with that. Very simple, very minimalistic, no lens thinking situations about changing which lens should I use. Now I only have one lens with me, and what I like to do is photograph people, and I photograph usually all the family that's there, and then I photograph the friends of the family. And here we got Marina. So Marina is a friend of Anna. I think they went to school together, and I met her some years ago, and I always found that they have a really beautiful family. So it's these two guys with two children, and I met her in the city center, and I said, well, if you like, I can take some pictures of you and your family, and it's a Christmas gift from Anna and from me. And so just one day before we left to Germany again, they picked me up, and we went up the hill to a very, very small town. It's actually just one street town, so it's no real town, it's just one street, and it's in the middle of nowhere. And what I want to show you now are several things. So one thing is, all these images are unedited straight from the camera. This is the look that the images have from the Canon 60 Mark II. That is one thing. How do images look like straight from the camera? That is one thing that I want to show you here. And another thing is, how do images look like if you only shoot with one lens, if you make a family session with only one lens. So this is the Sigma 35mm f1.4 art lens, and this is what comes out of it on the Canon 60 Mark II. And also a little bit, how do the small towns look like in the south of Spain. So just enjoy the images and my story to it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. Photographing people is always, to me, about emotion. So to me, an image works when there is emotion. So there are situations that might be too stiff. So for example, this image, I see that he feels uncomfortable. It's a little bit staged, and I took some images of them there, but they were not the images that I was looking for. Now, an action is always a nice thing to do to get an authentic photograph. For example, you could say, give your mother a hug, or give your child a hug, and then you get some nice authentic images. So for example, these images I think are very authentic. This one, for example, and I believe they will really like this, and I see that they are comfortable. It's very important for me not to stage the scene, but to let it happen somehow, that it's real. So none of these images are staged. I try to give the people a good feeling and make the moment special, even though it's just a normal moment anywhere in the world. Actually, the surrounding is never important in the images I take. Most of the background you don't see much. You mostly see the people. You mostly see the faces and the emotion. That is what you see mostly in my images. For example, here you have the couple, you have the relationship, how they hug each other, they smile, they look very happy. I think they're really a beautiful family and a great team. Now here, for example, the white balance I put very high, I think to 10,000 Kelvin, which is the maximum, and it was still a cold image, so I changed the picture style to black and white. And so I don't have to care about color anymore. I can make it warmer in editing and Lightroom here where I am, and I will edit all the images, and they might look a little bit different afterwards from the colors. So I thought, before I edit the images, I will make a video just to show you what it looks like. And now, to get the images in black and white in camera, I just changed the picture style from neutral or portrait or faithful. they all look very similar, to monochrome. And monochrome looks very different because monochrome is the black and white picture style. I put the contrast up usually and the sharpness in the picture style, and then I get a really nice black and white image straight from the camera without any editing. Now all these images are untouched, straight from the camera. I shoot everything manually, so some images might be too bright, too dark. Most of them are fine, but it doesn't matter if an image is too dark. It's in the post-processing you can light up everything, but usually it's, the exposure is as I want it. And the most important moments for me is when I get a real emotion. And that is actually my job as a photographer. My job as a photographer is to create an emotion, to take a very normal moment and make it somehow emotional. And then when I see the emotion, I pull the trigger, I take the picture. And the emotion of a person makes the image. It's not the scenery, it's not the dress, it's not... very often it's not even the light. Well, the light is very, very important, but the emotion is more important. I rather choose emotion over perfection. When I have maybe a woman who is perfect with makeup, perfect dress, perfect scenery, but I see there is a lack of emotion. There's no emotion in it. It's empty, maybe absent. Then I rather shoot somebody that really is enjoying the moment. And with the family, you usually have that true emotion without doing much. And so none of these images are edited, and I think they all look fine as they are. I don't have to do much here. I will put another look to the images, but I wanted to show you the images before I edit them, just so you see what it looks like. Now, the Canon 6D Mark II was really bad reviewed when it came out, which means that most people who reviewed this camera didn't like it at all, and some gave it even the worst camera of the year award, which I find crazy, because this camera still is so much joy to use. It's so easy to use, and you get really great images with it very, very easily. Now, it's not a camera that will get you by the specs. When you look at the specs of this camera, the Canon 6D Mark II, and you look at the specs of another camera from another brand, other brands have better specs, which means frames per second, dynamic range, dual card slots. There are several areas where on paper the Canon 6D Mark II loses against the competition, but in real life, in real world usage, I'm really, really happy. I get this out of the camera without any editing. I have the Wi-Fi function, so I can put the images straight to my phone from the camera and send them to the couple or the family immediately if I want to. And I think we took about 25 minutes for the photo shoot. We then took a coffee afterwards. And as always with photos, I think that photos become relevant over time. So these images will not be important now, but they will be important when they all have grown older and they no longer look like they look in these images. I think an image where you have a boy and the sister together in a nice hug, I think is a really special image, which might not happen in some years from now on again. So I think these images will be very important to the family, and that's when I know I'm happy. So we then drove back down, and here I took some images just out of the window. I put the window down. This is all near Malaga, in Nerja, Frigiliana, Torrox, Almuñeca. It's at the southern, in the south of Europe, and the south of Spain. And it's a really beautiful landscape. You have many hills and mountains. You can even go skiing here. You have on the one side the beach, and on the other side you have areas where you can go skiing. And I find this is very, very interesting that that's possible. Now the roads is something to get used to. When you take a look at how narrow actually the roads are, it's not for everybody. You see here is the road, but this is not just for one car, it's for two cars. It's a two-directional road. And there are people walking also. So when a car comes from the front, it gets very, very... there is not much space. But you know, the people who live here, they drive it every day, so it's fine. And these are the moments where I wish I had a longer lens with me, 100, 135, 200mm lens, just to get more detail in it. But overall, I was really happy with this 35mm focal length. I think I got some really nice images, and when I look at the images, I'm not missing out on something. I got portraits, close-up portraits, I got environmental portraits, and so all with one lens. It's a very nice feeling to shoot with only one lens, because you are not thinking about the technical side. Which lens am I using now? Am I switching? Wide angle, telephoto lens, normal lens, prime lens, zoom lens. You just focus on the photography and you get all the questions, all the variables out of the moment when you only have one camera, one lens. Yeah, I think that was it. I just wanted to show you the photo shoot we did with Marina and the family. And yeah, that's it. Then have a good night.